Hi there and welcome to Understanding Your Market. This is IMSE Kickstart Module 2. And before we even get into this, I really want to impress one thing upon you. To create a real business, online or offline, you must know your market. And that's what we're going to cover in essence today. Because most new marketers make a fatal mistake. And I mean, this is a very critical mistake. They just decide they're going to go into a niche and into a market and then dive in. Now, imagine this. Imagine diving into a pool and not knowing if even there was any water in this pool first. What do you get? A big ouch. It's a big, painful, and often costly lesson that most people hit themselves up the side of their head with and then wonder why they're not making any money. It's because they do not understand their market, their exact needs, the opportunities that are therein, and even down to who their customer is. Now, this is why basic market research is so important. You have to know whether there is water in the pool to start with and if there are any fish in that pool. So grab a pen and paper and get ready to take some notes, and let's check the pool and then dive in. So what we're going to do is attempt to draw 3 circles, and these circles need to intersect. Now, these are as close to circles as I can draw because my drawing skills are not that great. But what we're looking for are, first of all, your passions, your experience, and I have dyslexia, so excuse my terrible handwriting, experience, and your skills. What are you good at? What we're trying to do is see where these 3 intermesh into a golden spot right here. That is our gold thing. So when we can combine all 3 of these, we have something that we can then work with quite a lot. Now, for example, one of my passions is guitar, programming, dogs. I've got lots of dogs and I love dogs. And you can just start randomizing some of this stuff. Experience, well, I have a lot of experience in IT. I wouldn't say that I'm a good guitarist. I play, but doesn't mean I'm any good at it. So I wouldn't say that's really an experience. I've had a lot of experience with dogs, for example. You can see there's a commonality here because my father ran a security firm. So I've got lots of experience with dogs over the years, training dogs and stuff like that. I've got lots of experience in marketing. I've got lots of experience in consulting. And you just write down lots of these as well. What's the skills? Well, I've got lots of skills in different areas of IT. I've got lots of skills, again, in negotiating. I'm looking at specific ones here now. Looking at specific skill sets, negotiating, sales. I'm pretty good at, again, dog training and stuff like that. Now, I could do this for lots of different things, and this might help spawn you an idea. Now, one of these I'm kind of doing deliberately, which is, you can see one here is the dog training, which all 3 of these intersect in the middle here. So kind of uncovering one of the areas where actually I have some niche products, and that is in dog training. So I identified, doing this exercise myself, I realized, well, that could be a possible one, or maybe you've got one that you've got a particular health condition that you have overcome or have a lot of experience in and know a lot of knowledge about. Just start brainstorming. This is a great brainstorming tool to see, okay, well, what do I enjoy? What are the things I love to do where I could actually create a long-term business? Now, it might take you a wee while. It might take you a couple of hours to really think about it. Even if you have to jot all your skills and things down on a piece of paper. Another way to do this is to do it in 3 columns on a piece of paper like this. and then do passions or interests, skills, and then experience. Another way to do the same thing. And then write them down, just write them down. And you can see which ones become common across all three areas. That is good because that gives you an idea that this is something you might be interested in doing long term. Now, if you have an area and you've got a market that you say, you know, I really want to do X, and you know exactly what X is. If you've already got this idea in your head, that's great. If you say, for example, I mean, like one of my passions is I want to work with children. I want to work with young entrepreneurs who want to succeed and break free of, the education system. That's one of my big passions. So maybe that's what I want to do, and I could see, creating a long-term business there. But it helps when you've got experience and skills because it comes across in everything you do. So what we're going to do for the sake of this is we're going to research one niche, and I like to go after niches where there's a lot of stuff going on. So dog training, we'll have a look at that. Maybe also IT. Also, one thing that I've been involved with a lot is the health niche and acne treatments, especially at-home acne treatments, because as a teenager I had very, very bad acne. I mean, the worst acne you could imagine, and I went through all sorts of different things to try and sort that out. So I went through a lot of very traumatic stuff because of this, very much a social outcast because of this kind of stuff. So I went through a hell of a lot, and I found all sorts of natural acne treatments. I went through everything from over-the-counter stuff to laser treatments to microdermabrasion. So I became very knowledgeable about this niche just because it was a life experience I went through, and because I found a lot of solutions, I could do quite a lot in that. So there's three possible niches that we could dive into, and again, very broad niches in a lot of ways, and a lot of people are involved in these niches. I always like going after big niches. I don't like micro niches. One of the reasons is that big niches means there's lots of competitors, there's lots of people in that market, and it's with skill you can stand out. And I like big niches and competition because it tells me there's money in that market, and those competitors, if I craft things right, can be my future JV partners when I'm doing anything, if I create a product about this later on. So it's a very, very interesting area to be in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these three and then do some digging to create, okay, who's our potential customer? Is this a worthwhile niche to dive into, and what can we do? So to do that, I like to start with looking at what stuff is already out there in my market. So for example, I like to go to magazines.com. The reason I like magazines about a specific subject is because month after month they have to come up with new content to stay in business. So if there's a magazine in my business, in my niche, that tells me that there is a customer base out there, that tells me that there's continuous content that I can potentially write about, and that's a great start. So for example, let's just take one, say acne. Now, acne, there might not be much, and sure enough, there's not many magazines about acne. That's fine, that's understandable, but maybe we can go broad. Maybe we can do skincare. And again, what you need to do is have a pen and paper next to you, because you want to start looking, okay, maybe this will spawn off another idea that's related to my skills that I can dive into a little bit. For example, this one is, okay, 20 years younger. This is kind of about youth and makeup and not much else. Okay, so there's not really much out there about skincare. That kind of tells me, okay, well, maybe that spawns, okay, looking here, there's one about food. Or maybe, because I'm actually a seafood chef, or I was in one of my previous incarnations, shall we say. One of my side jobs when I was much younger was a seafood chef. So maybe I'm like, okay, well that reminds me, okay, that popped in my head. Okay, there's a cook. So what is good? Okay, healthy cooking, recipes, that could be interesting. Maybe that's a site I go into. Maybe dieting and stuff like that. Cooking, I mean, like baking and cooking. So there's all sorts of things that could spawn off just from looking at the different markets out there. So I want to go to magazines and then browse all categories. And then I get a look at all the different markets. These are all very popular niches. This can be a great place to start if you don't want to do the 3-ring method. You can have a look in here. It's like, okay, well, what kind of thing, what appeals to me? So say, for example, I was talking about dogs earlier on. There's a category for dogs and cats. Okay, let me see what's out there. So I come out here and I look at, oh, dog fancier, cat fancy, the Retriever Journal, Bark for dog fanciers. There's Caesar Milan, who's the dog whisperer, Gun Dog, Modern Dog for people who like to carry those little things in their purses and things like that. I don't know, but Fido. So there's interesting things, and you can go to find out, okay, what is in these. Now, if you can go to, for example, a place that sells this magazine, go grab a magazine, take a look at it, see what kind of things are appealing and out there, because a lot of these magazines live from almost 6 months ahead, and that's it. So they've got to be continuously relevant and interesting. So it's great research, and you can gather from these, because they've done thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in market research to identify who their customer is and who they're providing stuff to. But you also know that there's long-term markets with these. So again, that's another reason I love looking at magazines in my markets, because it just gives you such a head start and an advantage. So okay, I'm happy. I'm thinking that's a good start. So for the dog training side, okay, not bad. And I've also just written down on my notepad here cooking and stuff like that. Fine, great. Let's have a look at actually, let's look at computing, because that's kind of IT. So I'm going to look at computers. Let me have a look at what's out there. So we got computer arts, okay, computer, not much else per se. Well, 5 categories. So I'm going to do by most popular. Let's see if we can do that. Bestsellers. So we'll look at this, see what's going on. Okay, consumer reports, that's interesting. Popular mechanics, I'm a bit of a gearhead, so that might be interesting. I've got a major background in science, so that's interesting. Maximum PC, photography, home theater, giving me ideas. So again, this is what this is. This is taking some broad scope stuff and generating ideas. So you can start writing down different ideas. But let's move ahead. I'm kind of leaning towards the dog one just for fun, because I honestly, one of the things from my background, just to give you an example of my mindset, is I did a lot with IT, but I moved away from IT into marketing and to internet marketing and showing people how to sell stuff. So getting back into IT might be a step backwards for me if I was doing another site. I do like to keep up on stuff, but I'll be quite honest, I would prefer to do something a little more enjoyable. So maybe I don't have so much enjoyment in IT per se. It's more, I see that more as work. So again, I'd go with my passions. So taking that a step further, let's have a look at Amazon. Now, what I do here is I like to do 2 things. And this is something I suggest. I love gathering research and also contact information. So say, for example, I'm looking at dog training and dogs. I'm going to say dog training as a basis and do a search in Amazon. It's like where every product on the planet is. But I like to see, okay, what is going on? What kind of stuff is out there? Is there anything of interest? For example, there's books, 101 dog training, or dog tricks, stuff about hardware for training dogs. There's books, more Cesar Millan, he's everywhere. Interesting stuff. It's me or the dog, interesting. There's one-click dog trainers and stuff like that. So there's lots and lots of products, but what I like to do is if I see a lot of books on a subject, that tells me, first of all, information sells. That's a good start. And I also like to see who are the authors. Now you might think, oh, why would he do that? Well, here's the thing. Imagine creating some interviews with these authors. You get these authors and experts on your side, and then you can use that relationship, develop that relationship. You're getting experts in your niche and starting to borrow their authority for yourself. That's why we say you can create instant authority by doing this. So, say for example, let's go to books. I'll just do books like this, and I'll start figuring out, okay, who are the authors? Well, in this case, it's Cesar Millan. Probably won't get him, but you could get that information anyway. What I do like to do is if I see something like this, is I'll go into the book, and then I find out who the author is, and who the publisher is. So in this case, the author, I usually get this bio box down here. For example, there we go. Julie, I can't even say that last name, but I do like to find out who the publisher is. So and I, again, got my little notepad next to me, so I'll find St. Martin's Griffin, and I'll open up a new tab, and I'll start doing a Google search, St. Martin's Griffin, publisher. And then I'll try and find their information. So part of the St. Martin's Press, okay, US Macmillan, and then I'll find out contact information. So there is the actual phone number and contact information. Now call them up, ask to see if you could speak and do an interview with Judy, or who her press agent is or her book agent is, and then start that way. And you can get that contact information and do an interview with these people. That's a great, even an instant way to create a product. So we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you get the idea here. And again, you can start seeing, okay, if there's lots of books in my niche, that means there's a lot of interest, because people don't publish hardcover, hardback books without there being a good market for it. So again, a great place to start. So you've now established, you've got a few ideas. Now we also want to see what other digital products are out there. So I'll come across to ClickBank, and what I will do here is look to see what products are out there. So you come to the marketplace. These guys are the largest vendors, and they're a broker for product creators for information products. And these come in all video training packages, ebooks, and everything else. So I like to see what's out there because I can get sales stats from this. For example, accelerated dog training, and I see this has a gravity of 0. That's not a good sign. The dog training system, and these are all by relevance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and arrange this by popularity and see what's out there. And this is all not relevant if we go that way. That's a great, nice job there. Well done, ClickBank. Let's go back to keyword relevance. Let's see what is out there. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Okay, I was going to say that's got $44 per sale, but a gravity of 0.1, 0.5. Now, don't be too afraid of low gravities. A lot of people, when they're looking to promote products at ClickBank, and maybe if you've done any affiliate marketing, you'll know this is kind of like the general rule is look for a higher gravity. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that these guys don't get a lot outside of the internet marketing niche and make money online niche, which is one of the biggest niches in ClickBank. A lot of people don't get many affiliates in this area. So I like to see what kind of products are out there, and if there's any base gravity, even low gravity, it tells me that there's potential. So I'm looking here and I'm looking to see what is out there. Okay, so not much in the way of high gravity. This is more like it. Gravity of 44. Okay, and initial sale. Okay, so about $33. Let's have a look at this. So Kingdom of Pets. Okay, dog obedience trading. I'm actually familiar with this product, so that's interesting. And yep, that's not too bad. Okay, so that might be a potential partner later on. Let's have a look at what else is out there. So again, I'll make a note of different things. Okay, dog training online is $11, or sorry, gravity of 11, should I say, and average sale, a percentage of sale, 75. So that's good. And again, I'll just take a quick look, see what they're all about, and then take it from there. Okay, so we got that. Not a bad sales page. They've taken some time on that. Okay, interesting. So I'll make another note of that. And again, all of the people that have created these products are potential JV partners later on. And the more gravity they have actually indicates they've got more sales, which means they've probably got a larger customer base. So you have to distinguish yourself from these guys, take a different slant, maybe, but something that's complementary to them is something they would be willing to promote, and a site that obviously is related to them is going to help a lot. So they'll be much more open to doing interviews and cross promotions and all that kind of stuff, because these are guys that can help make you money as well. If they've got a good product and you want to just get your feet wet with your business and you've got an active base, then all very well and good. So I'm scanning through these very quickly, but yeah, there's a few out there that's doing not too bad. So okay, fine. We can dive into this and see what other demands there may be. So what I'm going to do now is, okay, let's just say from this, it's kind of cemented my mind that, yeah, you know, I'm going to go with the dog training. I think that's going to be the one for me. So what I like to do then is come over to the Google AdWords tool. This is a free tool provided by Google, and you can start putting in your keywords in here, your base keywords, to see what is out there. So say for example I'm going dog training because I'm thinking, okay, that's what I want to do, but I want to make sure there's actually being searched for. Now this is again a mistake a lot of people do when they just dive in. They don't check out the base. So for example, I'm going to go check out dog training. I want to see, first of all, before I go any further, is there actually people searching for this term? So I'm going to the advanced options and filters. And then what I do is, I love to do this. I actually want locations and languages all over the world, okay? And I prefer English, but I prefer all countries because I want to be global. But I want everyone in the English language because I don't write in any other language, obviously. But what I do want to do is filter by global monthly searches greater than 2,000. And I want the competition, I want low competition. Now this competition is within Google's AdWords program and their pay-per-click program, but we found this tends to translate as the less people promoting a keyword with pay-per-click tends to mean less competition in the natural listings as well. So what I might do, just as an example, is just only show low competition with at least 2,000 monthly searches, and then over here I like to switch this to exact searches, in other words, exact terms. So now you can see this is already going to search, and we'll want to click on keyword ideas because it defaults to ad groups in the current version. So I want to have a look, and sure enough, I'm getting dog whisper, clicker training, low competition, dog whisperer again, dog tricks, crate training, Rottweiler training, and pit bull training. So all of these are showing that they're low competition and have exact searches as well. Now I want to expand this a bit, so I'm going to actually take out the word training. Let's just go a little more broad and see what happens. So I'll do that again, and I'm going to do search, because the more generic you go, the better. So just going this way, and I'm going to arrange this by global monthly searches. Now I prefer to see at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 words in a key phrase. So I can see lots and lots of keywords, lots of low results, low search results, but lots of also very generic results as well. So maybe we should go a little more generic. So dog training, and I also want, I'm leaving this off. If you want to go more specific, you can, but I want to leave that off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this to be medium competition as well. So we'll do that and then see what comes up. So we've got a lot more, for example, how to train a puppy, medium competition. How to train your dog, okay, that's fine. Dog obedience, I can't even say that. Schutzhund training. How to train your puppy again, so that's kind of along the same lines. So we could look into these a little further and see what we could do, because obviously this might be a very, very competitive market. And it is a fairly competitive market, but we want to find a way that we can basically do a little bit more inside this and see what's going on. Now, for example, say for example I wanted to do a site about Rottweiler training. Now, Rottweilers are something I know about. I used to actually have a few of these, and I love Rottweilers. Very misunderstood dog, just as a complete side note. But what I want to do now is I want to see what's happening within Google with this. Now, I'm also using a tool called SEO Quake. This is a plugin for Firefox, but it also works for Google Chrome, Safari, Opera, and I don't know if it works on Internet Explorer, but you get a little button like this, and then it kicks in. But it also does a pretty cool thing with your search results. Now, again, Google will tell you some related terms for what you have going on. For example, Rottweiler training, tips, videos, German Rottweiler training guide. These are keywords that people are searching for, that Google has identified. So again, even from this, you can drill down and do some very cool stuff. Now, again, I do suggest if you're looking at keywords and you're thinking, well, maybe I want to do something about Rottweiler training. Maybe that's an area I can actually create a business or a site about for a business. Okay, fine. Maybe you want to go generic and then encompass lots of different dogs. But I'm kind of interested in this one. So I'm going to do a search here. And I want to see, okay, who is at the top of the pops, so to speak. Who's on top? So rottweilertraining.org. And that tells me that's a PR0 site. Only got 21 pages indexed. It's got very little terms of rank. I mean, that's in the 2 million range. It tells me I could actually do pretty well in this. Dogobediencetrainingreview.com, Rottweiler puppy training, and that's, again, that's PR2. So that's telling me if a PR0 and a PR2 is on the first page at the top, with some direct marketing, we could actually do pretty well there. Now, if I want to go down, I want to see what else is going on. We can see some videos up there. We can see how to train a Rottweiler, how to train your Rottweiler puppy with simple commands. So lots of easy stuff. Again, PR0, training a Rottweiler, Rotten Rotty. So it's information about Rottweilers and stuff like that. That tells me this is a very easy market to dominate. And that's what we want to do. But we want to make sure that, again, we're getting good information. So, okay, we've narrowed it down. And like I say, I don't like to go to micro niches so much. Maybe Rottweiler training is too narrow. But I'm kind of curious what other stuff. So, although I've found that out, maybe I'll go Rottweiler training and see what else we can generate. So I'll do that same thing and then do a search. And then from here, we can see, okay, this time I might actually do this. Only show ones closely related to my search. And I'm going to take off, just use the word Rottweiler. So we'll do search for that. And see what else turns up. So, Rottweiler for sale, Rottweiler training, Rottweiler dogs, Rottweiler attack. So we can see there's lots of other terms related to this. Rottweiler puppies, Rottweiler rescue, German Rottweilers. Again, lots and lots of searches for these. So you could create a Rottweiler site But guess what? You're also getting ideas for content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually download these terms. In fact, what I'm going to do is select all of these. Any ones I don't want here, or maybe that's too generic. Rescue German Rottweilers, Pitbull versus Rottweiler. I wonder if that's a comparison. Rottweilers for sale and stuff like that. And obviously our generic Rottweiler training. So we got that, and then download all those results. Okay, so I'm downloading those. I'm going to save that. Okay, so from there, what we do is, again, we look at some of the sites that are on here. Now, say, for example, rottweilertraining.org. This is where you create a useful power profile of your user. So now that we've got an idea about maybe where we want to go, we've looked at the metrics for some of these sites, I like to go investigate what the kind of demographics are and what kind of response there is to the websites that are already on the first page. So say, for example, I'll take this one here, rottweilertraining.org. I'll bring it over to one of my favorite sites called Quantcast. Now, this allows me to get demographics if it's a top-ranking website that maybe, you know, it might be that they have traffic data. Sometimes they don't. So this case, it's not being quantified because maybe it's too narrow a niche. But I do recommend you have a shot. Let's have a look at a more generic version. Say dog training, and we'll see who ranks for dog training. So for dog training, this site is the top ranking one. And let's have a look at their one, because you can guarantee whoever's ranking for dog obedience training is probably going to be interested in the same group that's going to have Rottweilers. So we can actually see what kind of traffic they're getting, and you can see this is interesting. After the Google updates from February to April, and then one of the big Penguin updates, and that traffic dropped from almost 143,000 down to pretty much 50% of that. But you can see it's gone up, come down as of July, June to July, it spiked back up and then came back down. That's the infamous Google dance. But the information we're wanting is right here. Predominantly female. The 18-year-old to 34-year-old, that gives us an idea about who our person is that is more likely to have it. It's likely does have kids. Middle income, $50,000 to $100,000 in income. Either no college in terms of education. Predominantly Hispanic are taking, and you see there's a large spike there. A lot of Hispanics have Rottweilers, which is very interesting. Or this is actually dog training. I'm sorry. I forgot we're not on the Rottweiler one specifically. But people, Hispanics, are looking for information on dog training. That's a very interesting thing. And the reason that we're looking at this information, it gives us information about how to target our market, how to target to our people that are in this industry looking for products and looking for services, doing the searches. Now think about this. If your market is predominantly Hispanic, then you could have on the front page of your website a Hispanic person with their dog, or a mix of people, but you could have more Hispanics. Guess what? The Hispanic population is going to look at that and think, oh, you know, and they see someone of their own race there. That is a very powerful thing because it's alignment marketing. What you're doing is you're realizing, okay, maybe you put a Hispanic family with their kids who look like they're middle class, middle income, middle class, and they're younger. They're predominantly younger because we're looking at the demographic here, 18 to 34. So that is giving you a profile of your people that you're wanting to market to. So, and predominantly female, so you have a female Hispanic in the kind of mid, say 20s to 34, that looks middle class with her family and tends to be Hispanic. There is your prime demographic right there. So you're creating that full profile. Now, don't just go off one site. Do a search for many, many others as well, just to see. Now this is a local site, so I want to go outside of the local sites. I want to look at other ones here. That's Superdog Hesperia, Good Shepherd Canine. Again, we want to look at, let's have a look at this one, dog problems. I want to go to something that looks more generic. I want to see what's going on there, so I'll do a search for that. And again, this is a great tool for finding out this kind of information. And again, this one is dog problems, and the whole profile here has shifted. Again, predominantly female, and it tends to, and this kind of, you have to think about the psychology of your customer here. Now, guys, I'm about to say something that's going to upset a few people, and women are going to nod their heads here. Every guy on the planet believes he can train his dog. Every woman on the planet knows that the dog needs professional training and needs proper guidance. So, it's probably the women who are the problem solvers in the house. This is dogproblems.com. So, predominantly females who are looking up at ways to solve the problem of the dog. Now, if you look here, again, the income range is about the same, 0 to 50k and 50k to 100k. You've got an age range that is older. People who are trying to solve dog problems tend to be 35 upwards. And if you look, the predominant age group here is 65 upwards. Have no kids in this case, but predominantly Caucasian. That's a very interesting change in dynamics. And if you look here, you've got a difference between grad school and no college. In fact, the grad school is slightly leaping ahead. So although we've changed the focus from dog training to dog problems, the mentality, the psychology of your customer has completely shifted. So that's showing you that you've got a broad scope difference. You've got a broad scope of age ranges, predominantly female. That's still a popular aspect there. Middle income, which is pretty normal because a lot, the majority of people are in the middle income bracket in the United States, for example. So that's very, very interesting. Now let's take it across to another site I like to look at, and I suggest you do this with several sites. Get an overall picture and see if there's anything that is a consistent element for your marketing. I also like to come across to Alexa. So let's go back again to, let's go to Rottweiler training again, because I like to see, get some specifics here. Now, obviously there's not enough traffic coming to this one to register on Quantcast, but there likely is on Alexa. Now, Alexa is a public stats site, but people who install the Alexa bar do tend to have a look. Basically it triggers, they extrapolate that information into, okay, who's looking at different sites. And if you don't have the Alexa bar, I do suggest you get it. You can actually get it for free right here, and you can grab that, install it, and it's great because it gives you all sorts of great little tools as well. It's one of the tools I do recommend. So anyway, come across here, do a search for the website, and you can see here there's no regional data, but we are in, as we saw from the beginning, about 2,500,000 in terms of Alexa traffic, but they've got about 1,023 inbound links. So they have been very active in trying to build traffic, but they're not getting much in terms of traction because they're still very, very low in terms of their ranking. That tells me that this might not be the best market to go after, because if they're at the top for dog, for Rottweiler training, but they're still they're still in that kind of range, they've got all these sites linking in, that might be a warning sign. I don't know. I'm looking at these numbers again. PR0, it's ranking there. Let's actually have a look at the site. And they're using a fairly generic WordPress site. If you look at the way they did this, they've got they're keyword stuffing somewhat, and they're doing this above the fold. There's no calls to action. That tells me why people are bouncing off here and not doing much. They're doing a little bit of AdWords stuff, but Wow, this is actually, I've got to say, a very bad site. So that again tells me we could probably take over this entire market, and with really good marketing do pretty well. And we've already identified some good keywords, so you know, I'm going to say go with it in this case. Now, I don't know how many people out there watching this are going to start creating Rottweiler training websites. I'm not saying that at all. Find your own market, find what you're interested in. But again, this is one we could easily dominate. And the one way I do this as well, just so you know, this is the keyword funneling technique. I'm going to turn this off, the search engine Quake off now. One thing I like to do is I like to do the actual keyword. I like to see how many results there are. So it helps if I do that. So for Rottweiler training, there's about 6.1 million results. But I like to do it in quotes. How many people are targeting that specific term? Only about 127,000. So I then use a couple of other techniques. I look to see who's got Rottweiler training in the URL. Only about 3,100. Okay, fine. And that's actually showing some double hits here. So let's also do in title. And we see there, okay, 3,970. So now I want to see who's really SEO'd up, who's really going for gold, and do both. And that brings it down to about 2,500. But what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of ads here as well. So that tells me there is some information here. There is some stuff that we could do here. And I think with good SEO and some good backlinking strategies could do incredibly well for this market. But if you hit a brick wall here and you're saying, you know, maybe this isn't adding up, all you're doing right now is you're doing a search for, is there searches? There's another step that we have to do in just a moment. But say, for example, you wanted to backtrack and go, well, you know, maybe this isn't one for me. So I'll go to dog training again. Just keep it generic. And then do another search, back up, and start again. Do another research on another keyword or phrase. Now again, I've got the search a bit too specific, so I uncheck that, do another search, and again get all sorts of other ones. Maybe dog, you know, how to train a dog, or maybe I'm looking for low competition ones. I tend to avoid trademark terms like the dog whisperer, for example. Maybe pit bull training. You know, some of these maybe it's a bit too much, so I want to go and actually just take it down to 1,000 searches and say, okay, does that open up any more possibilities here? So for example, let's see if we've got any new ones in the low end. Dog commands, beagle training, Doberman training. So there's maybe some other ones. Secrets to dog training gets 1,000 searches a month. So maybe it opens up some other avenues. But what you want to do is kind of find about 3 or 4 different markets that could create you a potential business. And then when you've done that, there's one last step I like to do. We've already kind of created a profile of who our customer is. Maybe, for example, dog training tends to be female, family orientated, middle income. They vary in all other areas, but the age range varies a lot. So, but you're thinking mostly female, family orientated, perfect. So a lot of your branding can be based around that. But the other thing I like to do is go to Yahoo Answers. So I'll go to, it's actually answers.yahoo.com. And I like to search for answers to a problem. So for example, if I'm doing Rottweiler training, and I'll just do that because I cannot actually spell Rottweiler, search Yahoo Answers. And I want to see, are a lot of people asking questions? So what I like to do is order by the newest. So let me just say date submitted in the last, I like to see if there's anything in the last 24 hours. That tells me that a lot of people are out there and they're asking questions. If I see a lot of questions within a 24-hour period, that tells me it's a hot and active market. So why did that Rottweiler do that? So that's okay, within the last 4 to 5 hours, and then take it out, say the last 7 days, go to the week and see if there's a lot of questions about that. So there's only about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions in the last week. Again, that's kind of telling me, okay, that may be a bit too specific. Again, not enough people engaged in asking questions. So maybe I go, okay, dog training, and go generic. Again, I want to see how many people. Dag training. Okay, I'm going from typos. So dog training. Okay, so last week we've had 269 results. So that tells me, okay, we need to maybe back it up to dog training and find a market there. Now, we've already identified lots of other things, but that's cool because that opens up to things like German Shepherd training, Dachshund training, Schutzhund training, all the other ones that we saw as potentials. So going a little more generic might be the best bet here. But now you're seeing the process of going deep, coming back. It's a little bit of a yo-yo, but you'll find your sweet spot by doing all this digging in, finding which way to go, and as I say, do this for 4 to 5 niches if you can. Areas that you think, yeah, you know, I could actually create a business about that. I'm passionate about that. Or if you've just got one, then find your area within that market and just say, well, I'm really passionate about this. Well, this will help you find an area where you can market into. So now that you've done that, let's actually look at the action steps I want you to take this week. So now that we've gone through all that, you found, some ideas and you started going through your research, I want you to identify 3 potential niches for you to jump into and then research their needs and wants. And the way you do that is look at Yahoo Answers, look at the questions that are being asked, see what the common threads are, the common questions. That gives you an idea about exactly what your target market needs. And again, a lot of people don't do this. That's why it's so important that you do. Now, I want you to create a prospect profile for your customer. Identify who they are. Identify what they do. Identify their problems, what their age range is, what their income level is. Do they have kids? What's their education like? This will help you when it comes to marketing your website and your content, aiming it directly at that customer. And that will help you with your conversions and your profits and literally create a flood of response to everything you do. Once you've done that, identify 3 to 5 prime products in your market. Look in ClickBank, look in Amazon. Find out what are the hot sellers for your market. Find out the authors. Find out who these people are. And try to identify about 15 to 20 keywords for your market. Now, we did that with the Google Keyword Tool. And we identified about 15 from that. So that's good. That's a great start. But if you're going a little more generic, you're going to have a lot more options, which means you can then use that leverage later on. And we'll show you how to create content using those keywords in a later module. And once you've done that, you're good to go. You can then choose from your list of 3 which one is the best niche with the best potential. And you may be wondering, how am I going to know until I get going? Look at your group, look at your keywords you've generated, the problems, which one are you in a best position to solve? Only you can answer that question. But once you do that, you're good to go. You have to then decide, okay, this is the direction I'm going to go. So with that being said, in the next module coming up in a week, we're going to show you how to perfectly pick. We're going to show you how to pick the perfect domain with the ultimate authority. We're going to show you how to set up a simple and cheap hosting account and create a WordPress install and optimize that for success. We're also going to cover micro outsourcing for quick results to help you overcome any technical roadblocks you might have. And then we're going to show you how you stamp your brand on that market. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next module very soon. Take care.